In the Vatican City, the Mass Pro Eligendo Pontifice began in St. Peter's Basilica, presided by Cardinal Giovanni Battista Re, while the 133 cardinals elected have already begun to gather in the polling chapel. The President of the National Assembly of Venezuela, Jorge Rodriguez, reiterated that they will not rest until all migrants kidnapped by the administration of Donald Trump and Nayib Bukele are rescued. After more than 12 hours of armed confrontation between India and Pakistan, with fatalities and several wounded, Islamabad declared that it will not escalate tensions. Hello and welcome to From the South, from the headquarters of teleSUR English in Havana, Cuba. My name is Pablo Micheliche. We begin with the news. Stay with us. In the Vatican City, the Mass Pro Eligendo Pontifice began in St. Peter's Basilica, presided by the Cardinal Giovanni Battista Re, while the 133 cardinals elected have already begun to gather in the polling chapel. This Holy Mass Pro Eligendo Pontifice is celebrated in St. Peter's Basilica. It's the last Mass publicly consolidated by all the cardinals. As we are seeing right now, these are the live images in St. Peter's Basilica. And as we are seeing this before the elation of the Pope, before the conclave to take place. It also is attended by bishops, priests, deacons, and religious, together with the entire people of God. Such a Mass immediately precedes the conclave that will take place today at 4 p.m. local time, when all the cardinals elected to vote are going to be locked in. The conclave will be presided over by Dean of the Sacred College of Cardinals, and the Biblical Eucharistic text asks God for the gift of Pope, who is equal to the irreplaceable task that the Christ, the Savior, entrusted to St. Peter, Prince of the Apostles, and to his legitimate successor. Once again, these are live images of the St. Peter Basilica as the Mass Pro Eligendo Pontifice ahead of the conclave is taking place. We go now to El Salvador. The economy will not have the expected economic growth, although the government is optimistic about a growth of more than 5%. Financial organizations estimate that El Salvador will be the one with the lowest growth in the region. From the Salvadorian capital, Roberto Hugo Presa tells us more. Let's see.
La economía salvadoreña no pinta bien para este año.
The Salvadorian economy does not look good for this year. According to studies by financial organizations such as the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund and the Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean, growth will be barely 2.5%.
Será apenas del 2.5%.
De hecho, la economía salvadoreña es la que menos crece de Centroamérica.
In fact, the Salvadorian economy is the one that has been growing the least in Central America for a long time, and this year it will have a lower growth than the last year. This means that there will be less public and private investment than expected, less economic movement, possibly affecting government revenues.
Económico posiblemente afecte los ingresos del gobierno.
Este economista estima que
These economists estimate that this situation will affect tax collection and therefore diminish the government's capacity to improve service to the population, which will be affected.
Para la población, menos generación de empleo.
For the population, less generation of employment and layoffs. In fact, a lot of people have been laid off. Last year, there were 10,000 in the industrial sector. That is to say, the capacity to offer goods to the population and services is diminished.
Capacidad de ofrecer bienes a la población y servicios.
Esto significa, sostiene el director del Centro para la
This means, according to the director of the Center for Consumer Defense, that poverty could worsen. In a country with a little more than 6 million inhabitants, the year 2023 closed with an average of 2 million Salvadorians living in poverty.
Por poner un ejemplo, la pobreza
To give an example, global poverty, With the salary increase in August 2021, total poverty decreased by 1.6%, and now with the growth rate projected by the ECLAC by the International Monetary Fund of 2.5, we are still at the same level. Therefore, this is not going to have a significant impact on poverty reduction.
Significativo en reducción de pobreza.
Para el bloque de resistencia y rebeldía popular,
for the Popular Resistance and Rebellion Bloc, the government's economic policies have slowed growth and, on the other hand, have led to severe indebtedness.
Se entiende el endeudamiento de cualquier país.
The indebtedness of any country is understood to the extent that this is aimed at promoting the economy, and we have not seen that. And also, the same indicators show the low foreign investment, because in fact, we are classified as a country of high economic risk.
De alto riesgo económico.
los economistas destacaron que los aranceles...
Economists point out that the tariffs imposed by the United States also have an impact on the low local growth. According to international financial organizations, the Salvadoran economy will be the one with the lowest growth in the region this year.
Bajo crecimiento en la región durante este año.
And now we have a short break coming up. First, remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news update, and much more. We will be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. Colombia has officially announced its intentions to join China's Belt and Road Initiative, also known as the New Silk Roads, by signing a letter of intent that President Gustavo Petro is expected to formalize during an upcoming visit to Beijing. This agreement aims to open the door for Chinese investment in infrastructure, technology, and trade, strengthening bilateral relations that have spanned nearly 45 years. The Colombian government has established a joint working group with China to outline the details of the partnership, emphasizing that investment and trade exchange should be mutually beneficial and help balance Colombia's currently deficit trade with China. It should be mentioned that China is already Colombia's second largest trading partner, with growing involvement in sectors such as infrastructure and energy. On Tuesday, the President of the National Assembly of Venezuela, Jorge Rodriguez, reiterated that the state will not rest until they rescue all migrants kidnapped by the administration of Donald Trump and Nayib Bukele. In an interview to a national media, the congressman revealed information that certifies, in addition to the discrimination against Venezuelan nationals, the active cooperation of figures of the Venezuelan extreme right with the U.S. State Department, comparing the treatment of citizens who have not committed any crime either in the United States or in El Salvador with what happened to the Jews in Auschwitz. He told how the matrix of opinion installed by agents of extremism such as Julio Borges and the complicity of Maria Corina Machado influenced more than 200 Venezuelans to be sent to a concentration camp just for being Venezuelan. A report by United States intelligence agencies confirmed the lack of links between the president of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro, and the extinct criminal group Tren de Aragua. The document concluded that there is no evidence to prove that the Venezuelan president is associated with the organization. The announcement further denies these claims stated by U.S. President Donald Trump against his Venezuelan counterpart. Precisely since his return to the White House on January, Trump has promoted a narrative in which the extinct Tren de Aragua, under the alleged support of the Venezuelan government, constituted a threat to the national security. These arguments have been used by Washington to accelerate the deportations of Venezuelan migrants in what constitutes a violation of human rights. In other news, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney has made his much-anticipated first visit to the White House as his country and the United States continue to spar over trade, tariff, and the prospect of reimagining their shared borders. During the Oval Office meeting, the Canadian Prime Minister rejected U.S. President Trump's pressures to make Canada the 51st U.S. state and said his country is not for sale. Donald Trump has stated that he just wants to be friends with Canada, but Mark Carney used the meeting to dismiss any prospect of his country becoming the 51st state. Moreover, Trump also described the Prime Minister's visit as an honor for the White House, and the amicable tone of Tuesday's meeting marked a stark contrast with Trump's hostile rhetoric over recent months, as he launched a trade war against his northern neighbor and made repeated threats to crush Canada's economy with the aim of annexing it.
Trump and I met today as leaders of two sovereign independent nations. And I want to thank the President and the members of his cabinet that attended for welcoming me and my colleagues to the White House and for our very constructive discussions. I conveyed to the President today what our countries have long proven to be true, that Canada and the United States are stronger when we work together.
And we go now to Peru. The onslaught against human rights on the part of the conservative forces in the country does not stop. For the consulted expert, the institutions that co-govern the country seek impunity for the police, the military, and for the designated President Dina Boluarte. From Lima, our colleague Ramiro Angulo with the report. Let's see more.
El Ministerio Público ha cambiado nuevamente a los...
The public ministry has again changed the prosecutors investigating the case of the nearly 15 people killed during the protest against the Congress and the de facto government of Dina Boluarte.
Pero no solamente que haya salido la doctora Raquel Cárdenas, han salido los fiscales que estaban...
But not only Raquel Cárdenas has left. The prosecutors who were in charge of her, who were in charge of the investigation, have left. And they have even moved some people who had temporary positions and who were supporting those prosecutors in this investigation. That is to say, all the people who are investigating today most of the cases of the social protest have never had access to the file. They have never any kind of connection to this investigation.
La carpeta nunca han tenido ningún tipo de vinculación a esta investigación.
En su lugar, han puesto fiscales sin experiencia en derechos humanos.
In their place, they have put prosecutors with no experience in human rights, and according to specialists, the measure will seek to delay the investigations and shield the police and military involved, and even the president-designate, Dina Boluarte.
Eso sí nos preocupa porque hay un corte no solamente de la estrategia.
This worries us because there is a cut not only in the investigation strategy of the prosecutor's office, but there is also a recent lack of knowledge of some people who are just starting to work on these prosecutor files. There are some cases that are already on time, and we do not understand how prosecutors who have just started as permanent or provisional deputies could know quickly what they are dealing with.
Conocer rápidamente de qué se trata.
Desde el Congreso han aprobado una ley para fiscalizar el
Congress has passed a law to oversee the financing of non-governmental organizations, another to declare crimes against humanity imprescriptible, and now seeks to pass a law to grant amnesty to police and military officers sentenced for crimes against human rights. Finally, if the Congress of the Republic takes this decision, which I believe it could, it will take the side of the murderers, of the people who have disappeared people, of the people who have raped, kidnapped, tortured. As Fujimori did in 1995, the purpose is to guarantee political strategy of denial of history and of absolute ignorance of the rights of the victims, and a much more complete denialism in this matter.
Mucho más completo en esta materia. Por su parte, el Tribunal Constitucional
The Constitutional Court is preparing a ruling to prevent Boluarte from being investigated for the duration of her mandate, as they did with former President Martín Vizcarra and Pedro Castillo, thus facilitating her downfall.
Facilitar así su caída.
Ya nos han dado evidencias de que estos están confabulados.
They have already given us evidence that they are in a confabulation. They have an alliance, a pact between these institutions to shield all those responsible for all the murders. So we will not be surprised when the court says that they cannot be investigated. That is why we are going to arrive in the capital to make the respective hearings in these institutions that are practically busy with the government.
En esas instituciones que prácticamente están parcializadas con el gobierno.
Para los expertos consultados, no hay duda que en el
For the experts consulted, there is no doubt that in Peru the institutions that co-govern seeks to undermine the defense of human rights and rewrite the history of political violence in favor of the conservative forces of the right.
A favor de las fuerzas conservadoras de la derecha. Desde Lima para Telesur, Ramiro Angulo Maquiavelo.
And we go for our second short break. Before, we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English. There you will be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage, and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Financial break. Stay tuned with teleSUR. Welcome back. After more than 12 hours of armed confrontation between India and Pakistan, with fatalities and several wounded, Islamabad declared a few moments ago that it will not escalate tensions. In order for this proposal to materialize, it has asked New Delhi to put an end to the Sindh military operation. India attacked several targets in Pakistan, considered terrorist infrastructure, early Wednesday morning. Operation will have left 26 dead and 46 wounded that, according to Pakistan, are civilians and not terrorists. India contradicts version and reiterates that the missile strike was aimed at terrorists linked to the killing of 26 tourists last month in the Kashmir region. The United Nations and several governments have asked the two countries to opt for diplomatic channels. China has agreed to initiate a dialogue with the United States, the Foreign Ministry spokesman said on Wednesday, confirming that they will not negotiate their conditions based on respect, equality and equity. He Lifeng, member of the Political Bureau of the Central Committee of the Communist Party and Prime Minister of the state, will be in charge of these talks. A foreign office also informed that the Swiss government has offered to host this meeting, which will take place on May 9. They here will be meeting with Scott Bessent, Secretary of the United States Treasury Department, in several sessions over 3 days. Beijing has been categorical in reiterating that Washington must demonstrate real willingness to resolve differences and correct practices contrary to the international trade order. The European Union expresses concern about possible new U.S. tariff, which will affect a wide range of products. Representatives of the continental bloc have warned that the imposition of new tariff could impact up to 97% of its exports, which currently reach a trade volume of 549 billion euros. In response to this threat, the Eurogroup is intensifying its effort to diversify trade and investment relations with other countries and to mitigate the impact of the complex relationship with Washington. Although they have expressed their desire to reach a negotiated settlement, they consider the situation unacceptable and will respond to the challenge it poses. And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief, but remember you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And you can also join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, my name is Pablo Michelice. Thank you for watching.